Well, for more on this, let's cross live to Kaduna State and speak to retired Brigadier General Sani Usman, who is a former spokesperson of the Nigerian Army. Thank you so much for being on Newsnight. If you can hear us, I will just ask you the question.
Good evening.
Great, fantastic. The last time we saw the deployment of the standby force, I believe, was to the Gambia in 2017, codenamed Operation Restore Democracy to remove Yahya Jammeh at the time. But now we are hearing the activation of this standby force. What's your view in their operational capacity to curb insecurity at this time? And do you think that this is the solution given the breakaway of the AES, the Sahel states?
Yeah, good evening, and thank you so much for having me on your program. Even though I've lost the last part of your audio, but I quite understand what you are talking about, the implication of deployment of the ECOWAS standby force vis-a-vis the exit of these three countries, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger Republic. The thing is that security generally is a collective responsibility, especially in the West African sub-region. And I have seen Ferdinand in his report, he talked about the statistics about the issue of security in the West African sub-region vis-a-vis this issue. Therefore, it is very, very important that the West African Chiefs of Defense Staff should rally around to ensure that the ECOWAS standby force is enforced, because we have seen instances where ECOWAS has risen to the occasion. In most instances, especially in those days of ECOMOG days, they were able to restore peace and security in some West African countries, and of course just of recent, when almost all the countries were in democratic governance in Gambia, and it worked so well. And so the issue of having a standby force is very, very important and key. And I was made to even understand the fact that the level of cooperation and understanding, especially among the various armed forces, is increasing on a daily basis, because most of us that had the privilege of serving in the military, we have had instances, either operating alongside with this our West African counterparts, or even training together either here in Nigeria or elsewhere. So it's very, very important. And having common experience and training together is very, very good. It enhances, the relationship and that. But that notwithstanding, I think it is very important again that Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso should reconsider their stand. Their problem in most instances has to do with the colonial masters, not necessarily with their neighbors. They're talking about the other countries of West Africa. Yes, agreed. What happened, in respect of the ECOWAS reaction to the coups in those various countries, which is the normal constitutional requirement of the ECOWAS, that anybody who violently or by whatever means other than constitutional means seize power, this is what should be done. So I think these are things that need to be reconsidered, because there is no way you can have a secured Nigeria without a secured Niger Republic, Niger, Chad, and Benin Republic. It's just like what we are having locally. There is no way you think if your state is secure and the other state is insecure, you think you are secure. And that is why the issue of peace is both subjective and objective. There is issue of you thinking that you have peace, but in real sense, you do not have peace. So they need to reconsider their stand, to bring themselves back into the fold, and so that we have a collective security mechanism that will enhance the security of the West African sub-region, and by implication, other parts of Africa and the world.
Yes, indeed. And you do understand that Nigeria is calling for the immediate, setting up of this standby force. And you seem to agree that there is a need for it. But do you envisage any challenges, especially when it comes to funding? I mean, how do you think this, standby force will be run in a sustainable manner?
I think the issue here is that the issue of sincerity of purpose and commitment. And so far, Nigeria has shown that And of course, if you know not just the issue of the standby force, you look at the Chad region and some other commissions of the ECOWAS. Nigeria has been playing a leading role, and March is what with action. So I think it's peaceful. It's just a question of continuous constructive engagement. And I think we have to give it to the Nigerian government and, of course, the Chief of Defense Staff by following up to this extent, you know, rallying around his colleagues and bringing them. You remember the last time they had meeting was in August, and now barely 7 months they are having another one. And I believe on a regular basis they will be having, and possibly others will follow, not just the West Africa, including the issue of Gulf of Guinea and so many other places, so that you have a joint, you know, security for this sub-region. So the issue of having this standby force, I think, is very, very important, and I'm so sure they will make sure that it is adequately funded and the requirements. And I believe their 43rd meeting will consider all those issues, even though they have even started, you know, considering other committees' reports. So I think it's something that we should be optimistic about.
Steps, you know, you talk about steps that ECOWAS, you know, need to take, especially Nigeria. What, you know, concrete steps need to be taken to close, you know, the gap that's been created by the exit of Burkina Faso, Niger, and of course Mali?
Yeah, I know there are behind the scene effort to ensure that these three countries reconsider their stand in respect of that. And if you remember, a former Ghanaian president, I think, is engaging them so that they will see the need that to secure the West African sub-region is a collective responsibility. Just like I mentioned, take for instance, even the problems that we are having generally in the Sahel. Look at Mali itself and look at what is happening in the Sudan. Sudan that used to act as a buffer zone, now there is nothing. And so bulk of, you know, proliferation of small arms, you know, the violent extremists are passing through. So I think there is a need for them to reconsider their stand. And I'm so happy, just like I mentioned earlier on, the Chief of Defense Staff, the Nigerian Chief of Defense Staff is open the diplomatic engagement with this, and of course the ECOWAS itself and the various heads of state and government in the ECOWAS sub-region are towing that line. I think they have learned their mistake from the earlier ECOWAS stand in respect of, you know, sanctions and all the rest of the thing, and they realize, they know it, they are just not you know, saying it, but they too, they are feeling the pinch of not being part of ECOWAS, because you have seen the instances of security breaches in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Niger. And unfortunately, with this kind of thing, it has started affecting Benin Republic. So the earlier that is done, the better. And I'm so happy the efforts that have been made by General Musa to constructively engage them, and of course the ECOWAS leadership, you know, through the Ghanaian head of state, so that they will reconsider. And honestly, it is constraining a lot of things. These are people, particularly the armed forces, that they have trained together, they have known each other. In fact, if you look at some of them, they even know Nigeria more than some of us that are in Nigeria. So basically, it is proven to be a serious constraint, you know, to all the countries affected if you know, they are not within the ECOWAS bloc. So I think it's something that needs to be reconsidered, and I'm so happy with the stand so far. And I'm so sure in no distance time, they will reconsider their stand, regardless of forming the group of three that they have, that they will come back into ECOWAS, you know, fold, so that we have overlapping and interlapping, you know, support with each of these countries, so that we can deal with the security challenges. Because no matter what, if they look at it, particularly if any one of these countries is not secure, it will have a corresponding consequences on those countries. Take, for instance, the Niger Republic. We are so close with each other. Forget you consider historical and other cultural affiliation, the next thing they move to Nigeria. And this is very important. And it is the same thing with Mali and Burkina Faso. So I think the earlier that is done, the better. And I'm so happy that is being done. And I think it is for the good of everyone that they should reconsider their stand and come back to the ECOWAS fold, so that we can be able to effectively, you know, scale the West African sub-region as it is.
Indeed, but Brigadier General, there are also external forces that play here. What is the scenario that is likely to play out with the activation of this standby force? And you have the likes of Russia, who have shown interest in China on the one hand, and of course the US on the other hand. You have France and all of this mix. How do you foresee all of that playing out with the Sahel and Russia on the one hand, and of course the rest players? How would this likely pan out? And initially you talked about the capacity of the force, but it's one thing to have troops, and it's another thing to have the logistics, infrastructure, and the funding. Should ECOWAS be looking to partners such as the US to ensure the operational capacity and capability of the force?
Well, you are talking about two things, issue of collaboration and cooperation with other countries other than among the countries of the West African sub-region. Yes, this is very important because most of these countries that you have mentioned, they to some extent they have experience, but they have resources. They have particularly, technology and so on. So we require it. So it's just a matter of, engaging them in a best manner in the sense the terms and conditions as against the segmented individual countries, supporting one country or the other. So by collectively agreeing together, they can require the support or the assistance of this country in an, agreeable manner as against an individual countries where they are interested in their mineral resources and so on and so forth. So collectively, if they talk to themselves, they will agree to some extent, the terms and conditions. So it is very important. And coming back to the issue of logistics, I have told you earlier on that the West African sub-region had the history of, taking care of itself. Take the issue of ECOWAS, ECOMOG days, and even during the peacekeeping under the auspices of the United Nations in Sierra Leone and Liberia, they were able to do it. So it's something that all they have to do is to dust their books and to ensure that each country live up to its obligation. And of course, Nigeria playing the leading role naturally will give the highest contribution. And so the issue of logistics, I think the issue of command and control and everything, they will soon be ironed out, and I think work is even being done in respect of that. So it's not an issue, so to speak, because you have seen what happened in the Gambia. Now Gambia is stable, and of course we have had the instances we had in Sierra Leone, and now they want to stabilize it further. I think so. It is not going to be an issue, so to speak, and more importantly, Nigeria, is involved in the sense that we have the capacity and we have the resources to do that, and of course it is for the interest of Nigeria to ensure that this standby posts come into being so that we can be able to stabilize most of these countries so that Nigeria can also concentrate on other developmental programs.
Right, thank you so much for your brilliant insights. Retired Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka Usman, former spokesman of the Nigerian Army. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight.